Singh Youth Group, and the Helpful Hands Youth Group. They've reached here because they have qualified through the Speaker's Regional Youth Debating Competition. J.C. Chandy Singh Secondary School Orators will be represented by Kevin Bethune, 15 years old, Miss Clarissa Narain, 15 years old from Port Morant, and Jonathan Prasad. Jonathan is 15 years old from Rose Hall. Helpful Hands Youth Group, their first speaker will be Miss Abian Saul, 22 years from Lamaha Springs, Miss Charlene Pantlitz, but that's a Burmese name, right? Pantlitz, yes. She doesn't know. From Parfait Harmony, West Bank Demerara, and Nigel Dripol, 22 years old from Grove, East Bank Demerara. The mood, diversifying the economy beyond oil is not critical for sustainable development in Guyana. I now declare this debate open and call on Kevin Bethune from J.C. Chandy Singh Secondary School Orators to make his presentation. So we have the young teenagers going up against the young adults in these debates. And I see some familiar faces from past debates also in the audience. Kevin, take your time, you ready? So let's bear with him, a young man. And before he starts, let me tell this little story about King Pele, the footballer. And he said when he went to his first international competition, which was a World Cup, and he came out, he was in awe at the stadium, the people, because he was literally coming from the streets of Brazil, Dr. Hatton. And so for the young people from Berbice, please do not be in awe. We are all people, some of us filling extraordinary positions. So Kevin, you can rub your hands together, get some warmth, relax yourself. Your time will start now.
Honorable Speaker, esteemed judges, distinguished members of the opponent, and fellow debaters. As we convene today to discuss the critical issue of diversifying Guyana's economy beyond oil, I, Kevin Bethune, stand firmly in favor of the proposition that such diversification is not critical for sustainable development in our nation. Redefining our mode as leveraging the oil industry as the primary engine for Guyana's sustainable development is both viable and sufficient. As the first speaker, I will analyze our current economic dependency on oil and how it can be leveraged to drive sustainable growth and development by funding infrastructure, social programs, and economic investments. My second speaker will address environmental sustainability, showing that responsible management and green technology investments can make our oil industry sustainable. Lastly, my third speaker will discuss how focusing on oil can overcome limitations like limited infrastructure, a lack of skilled labor, and more effectively than diversification. Together, these points will support the problem at the heart of our discussion. Let me first dissect the key terms at hand. Noble judges, economic diversification as outlined by the World Bank refers to the process by which a country broadens the range of its economic base through expansion of existing activities, addition to new activities, or both. Oil, as per the West Energy Information Administration, is described as a liquid fossil fuel mostly composed of carbon and hydrogen extracted from the underground reservoirs. The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines not as used as a function word to make a group of word negative or a word. Critical, according to Merriam-Webster, signifies of relating to or being a turning point or especially important juncture or crucial importance. Sustainable development, as defined by the United Nations, refers to development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. Honorable judges, the economic multiplier effects theory posits that initial investments in an economy can trigger a large surge in overall activities, specifically in the oil sector. Investments in exploration, extraction, and refining can catalyze growth in related industries like services, construction, and manufacturing as the sector demands various goods and services for its operation. This creates a domino effect, fostering demand in or in other sectors, supported by research from the institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, which demonstrate how all investments can significantly boost gross development product and generate employment. The argument gains further traction. According to the 18th of May 2023, Starbucks News vividly illustrates how investments in the oil sector can spur economic growth in specific regions. Do an interview with Go Invest. For investments, the tangible impacts of the oil sector investments on job creation can increase economic diversification to drive sustainable development without need for explicit diversification efforts. Moreover, the multiplier of oil revenue, oil production creates jobs, stimulates local businesses, and generates government revenue. This revenue can be reinvested in essential sectors like education, healthcare, and infrastructure, aligning perfectly with Sustainable Development Goals 3 and 4, which ensure health and well-being for all and inclusive and equitable education, respectively. Distinguished judges, but what about the resource curse theory? Doesn't it suggest that countries rich in natural resources are doomed to fail? Not necessarily. Research by economists Jeffrey Satchers and Andrew Warner reveals that with proper management, resource-rich nations can achieve sustainable development. Take Norway, for example. Despite Norway's heavy reliance on oil, Norway has managed its resources wisely, investing in education, healthcare, and social welfare programs. As a result, Norway ranks the world's most developed countries. If Norway can do it, why can't Guyana? The opposition may argue that diversification is the key to stability, but let's ask ourselves, is diversification worth the risk? Guyana's limited infrastructure, a lack of skilled labor pose significant challenges to diversification efforts. As the old Guyanese proverbs wisely advises, you don't plant cassava and expect to harvest breadfruit overnight. Building new industries takes time and resources, and there's no guarantee of success. Why gamble with our future when we have a proven revenue stream in oil? Moreover, in His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali's BBC Hard Talk interview on March 28, 2024, he outlined his vision for Guyana's oil wealth, emphasizing its potential to drive economic development while addressing environmental concerns. President Ali's articulated plans to invest in oil revenue in the critical infrastructure, education, and healthcare, reflecting a commitment to sustainable development. His stance aligned with the proposition argument that government should leverage its oil reserves for economic growth while ensuring responsible resource management. Therefore, President Ali's interview supports the proposition's stance on the issue of diversifying Ghana's economy beyond oil. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And that was Kevin Bethune from JC Chandy Singh Secondary School, Orators Group. They are the propositions. And now for the first speaker for the opposition, Helpful Hands Youth Group. And their first speaker is Abian Saul. Abian, you ready? Your time starts now.
Esteemed judges, alert timekeeper, Mr. Speaker, my worthy opponents, listening audience, and other parties present, good morning. Today, my team and I stand in firm opposition to the moot which states, and I end quotes. Allow me to begin by identifying my team structure for this morning. I, Abian Saul, first speaker of the opposition, will identify and define key terms in today's moot, and begin our team's argument by expounding on sustainable development and the consequences of the consequences of oil exploration on the environment. My second speaker, Ms. Sherlyn Pandlis, will further support our argument by explaining the consequences of economic dependence on oil. Our third speaker, Mr. Nigel Drupal, will conclude our argument by examining the importance of economic diversification. Honorable judges, permit me to define the key terms of today's moot. According to United Nations, economic diversification is a process of shifting an economy away from a single income source towards multiple sources from a growing range of markets and sectors. Critical, as defined by the Cambridge Dictionary, means extremely important. And as defined by the National Institute of sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Thus, our interpretation of the moot reads as the process of shifting the economy away from the single income source of oils towards multiple sources is not important for meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs in Guyana. Before I begin, I must pose the question, what really guides the process of sustainable development in Guyana? Well, in 2015, the United Nations adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, 17 goals as quote unquote, a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine Guyana's economy as a tall building. Currently, this building stands strong with one primary pillar, the oil industry. Our proposition argues that this single pillar is sufficient to keep this building stable. However, let's consider this. What about in the cases where the ground of global oil prices shifts unpredictably, as noted during market crashes? Or worse, when this finite resource is exhausted? What then? In an article published on Investopedia written by Mark Koloskowski in 2021, entitled History of Oil Prices, the price for oil crashed in the years, quote unquote, 1986, 1989 to 1999, 2008, and 2020. Do you remember when the price for cooking gas and fuel dropped at the height of COVID? Yes, the members of the proposition may argue for its economic benefits, energy accessibility, and innovation. However, we must confront the harsh reality. Not only does the volatility of oil prices place us at risk, but the industry also poses a significant threat to environmental sustainability, and it hinders the transition to a truly sustainable future. First and foremost, let us address the elephant in the room, the environmental devastation brought by the oil and gas industry. In an article published by Oil and Gas Governance addressing environmental concerns, how flaring of gas, oil spills, and environmental pollution contribute to climate change problems, they cited, quote unquote, oil and gas operations to disrupt the oceanic food chain, and damaging sea defense due to rising tides as a result of destroyed reefs and increased global warming. They further went on to say, quote unquote, as of March 2021, ETSO was flaring up to 18 million cubic feet per day, more than a day's worth of consumption in the natural gas in the nation of Germany. The relentless pursuit of fossil fuels undermines progress towards sustainable development goals related to environmental sustainability, SDGs 13 to 15, imperiling ecosystems, biodiversity, undermining global efforts to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions, and limiting the effects of global warming. Take a look at our neighbor Tobago. They are currently battling the after effects of an oil spill. Let us question how the industry continues to greenwash and mask its true intentions. And quite ironically, in Guyana's Low Carbon Development Strategy, LCDS 2030, published in the year of 2022, which addresses climate change and action, it was highlighted that oil and gas revenues will be used in a manner that allows, quote unquote, support for diversification of the economy by supporting non-oil sectors and supporting future development all across Guyana. If the LCDS has identified the need for economic diversification, then how can you say that it is not critical? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Abian Saul, and she is from the Helpful Hands Youth Group. And now for the second speaker for the proposition, JC Chandy Singh Secondary School Orators, we have Clarissa Narang, 15 years old, from Port Moran, Berbice. Clarissa, you ready? There you go. Your time starts now.
Honorable Speaker, esteemed judges, distinguished opponents, and fellow debater. As the second speaker of our team, I staunchly advocate that diversifying the economy beyond oil is not critical for sustainable development in Guyana. I will explore how Ghana can achieve environmental sustainability while maximizing its economic benefit of its oil reserves. While acknowledging valid concerns of the environmental impact of oil production, we must weigh the immediate benefits of oil revenue against the long-term goals of diversification. Ghana stands at crossroads where it can implement sustainable practices and invest in renewable energy technologies while still harnessing its economic potentials of its oil reserve. Honorable judges, as the old saying goes, one hand can't clap. Are we to abandon the well beneath our seas for the sake of uncertain diversification efforts? Or shall we clap both hands together to maximize our economic potential? Noble judges, let us first address the environmental concerns raised by opponents. While oil production can indeed have environmental consequences, Guyana has demonstrated a commitment to responsible resource management. According to a comprehensive report by the World Bank, Guyana's environmental regulations rank the most stringent in the Caribbean region. World Bank 2023. Through institutions like Environmental Protection Agency, we have established robust safeguards to mitigate the impact of oil production on our environment. But shall we cast aside our greatest assets, our oil reserves, based on fear alone? Let us remember the words of our ancestors. One tree does not make a forest. Diversification may be desirable, but should we forsake the forest for the sake of a single tree? Furthermore, let us examine the substantial economic benefits derived from oil revenue. According to the latest data from the International Monetary Fund, oil revenue has consistently accounted for over 90% of Guyana's exported earnings in recent years. IFM 2023. This influx of revenue has empowered us to make significant investments in critical infrastructure, healthcare, and education, thereby driving economic growth and poverty reduction across the nation. But the substantial revenues generated from oil, we have the financial capacity to invest in renewable energy technologies and other development initiatives. But what about the argument that over-reliance on oils leave us vulnerable to market fluctuations? Let us reflect on another Guyanese proverb. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. Are we shy away from the challenges that come with oil production, or shall we navigate the turbulent waters with skill and determination? Ghana has already embarked on a path for sustainable development through its Global Carbon Development Strategy, LCSD 2021, aiming to balance economic growth with environmental sustainability by preserving forests and promoting renewable energy. The nation's commitment to environmental sustainability is evident in initiatives highlighted in the Guyana Chronicle 2024 and the Renewable Energy Action Plan by the Ministry of Natural Resources 2024. With these strategies in place, Guyana stands poised to implement sustainable practices, mitigate environmental risks, and harness economic potential for its oil reserves. While opponents may advocate the greater investments in renewable energy, crucial to acknowledge the ongoing role of oil and gas in the global energy mix. As noted by the International Energy Agency IEA 2023. Therefore, rather than viewing oil and renewables as mutually exclusive, Ghana can pursue a dual strategy, harnessing its economic potential of oil while simultaneously investing in renewable energy technologies. This approach ensures a balance between immediate economic needs and long-term environmental sustainability, benefiting both current and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clarissa. And now for the second speaker of the opposition, Helpful Hands Youth Group, and she is Charlene Pamphlets. Charlene, you ready? Time starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, and my fellow debaters, today we stand at a crossroad where the choices we make today will shape the future of our nation, Guyana. For too long, our economy has been shackled to the whims of the oil industry, leading to a dangerous dependency that threatens our sustainable development. The proposition may say that oil revenues have the potential to provide a stable and substantial source of income in Guyana's economy. And while oil has brought some prosperities in the short term, we cannot deny the long-term consequences of this reliance. Our overdependence on oil leaves us vulnerable to volatile market fluctuations, risking economic instability and stagnation. The oil industry can expose Guyana to geopolitical tensions and conflicts, both regionally and internationally, which may undermine its economic stability and security. Considering the current situation in Guyana with Venezuela, just imagine, God forbid, Venezuela snatches the Essequibo. Then, what next? My dear proposition, what next? According to an article published in Kaitri News on January 23rd, 2024, penned by Senior Minister in the Office of President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, quote unquote, the country's external debt amounted to US $1.78 billion at the end of 2023, up by 13% from the end of 2022. This is money that is borrowed, and our non-renewable oil, guess what, is being held as collateral. This circumstance is comparable to the concept of the pre-source curse, which refers to challenges that can arise when a country overly relies on a single resource for its economic growth and debt servicing. As we grandmother does say, when coconut fall far from tree, it can't fasten back, which simply means some happenings cannot be reversed. The proposition may come today to say that the oil sector provides many with jobs, and just in a blink of an eye, if the oil goes tomorrow, so does that job. Moreover, economic diversification promotes inclusive growth by ensuring benefits are distributed more equitably across the population. By investing in diverse sectors such as agriculture, tourism, and renewable energy, Guyana can create employment opportunities for many, reduce income inequality, and prevent underdevelopment in these respected sectors. In an article published by Oil Now on May 18, 2022, it was stated that Guyana earned US $212.6 million in payments from Norway because they kept deforestation below a threshold and met certain indicators of good forest governance for the LCDS. And as I close, I'll leave you with a quote by Herman P. Daly. And I quote, non-renewable resources should be exploited, but at a rate equal to the creation of renewable substitute. End of quote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlene. And now for the third speaker of the proposition, J.C. Chandy Singh Secondary School orators, and that person is Jonathan Prasad. Jonathan, ready?
Yes,
Your time starts now.
Honorable Speaker, esteemed judges, distinguished opponents, and fellow debaters. Today, as the third speaker, I will analyze the challenges presented by limited infrastructure, a shortage of skilled labor, and our historical reliance on primary industries. I stand firm in advocating that diversifying the economy beyond oil is not critical for sustainable development in Guyana. While some may tout diversification as the solution to our economic woes, let's explore the harsh realities and challenges that stand in our way. Noble judges, let us first address the elephant in the room, limited infrastructure. Guyana's infrastructure deficit is not merely a stumbling block, it's a gaping chasm that threatens to swallow any ambitious endeavors of diversification whole. According to the latest data from World Bank, Guyana ranks among the lowest in Caribbean region in terms of infrastructure quality, with inadequate road, ports, and energy supply, World Bank 2023. Without a robust infrastructure to support new industries, the dream of our economic diversification remains just that, a dream. Adding salt to the wound is a chronic shortage of skilled labor plaguing our nation. Despite the best effort of our education system, Guyana continues to grow professionals in key sectors. The International Labour Organization reported that Guyana faces significant challenges in providing access to quality education, vocational training, resulting in a workforce ill-prepared to meet the demands of diverse industry, IL 2023. In a cruel twist of fate, our nation's greatest asset, its people, become its Achilles heel in quest for economic diversification. Compounding these challenges in Guyana is Guyana's historical dependence on primary industry. For generations, our economy has been shackled to sectors such as agriculture and mining. with little incentive or inclination to diversify. This entrenched reliance on primary industry not only stifle innovation and entrepreneurship, but also perpetrates a cycle of economic stagnation and inequality. Now, let us paint a picture of sober scenario. Imagine a small village in the heart of Guyana where generational families have toiled and land to eke out of meager existence. Despite their backbreaking labor, they struggle to make ends meet, trapped in a cycle of poverty with no escape in sight. The children of this village, bright and hopeful, yearn for a better future, but their dreams are dashed by the harsh realities of limited opportunities and a lack of resources. Linking human rights and sustainable development goals to this bleak narrative, we recognize the inherent injustice of denying individuals the right to education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. Sustainable Development Goal 4 emphasizes the importance of inclusive and equitable quality education for all, while SDG 8 aims to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. However, without addressing the challenges of diversification, kind of risk falling short of these lofty aspirations, condemning future generations to a life of poverty and deprivation. So why focus on oil? Oil revenue provides Ghana with a lifeline to address these challenges. It offers financial resources needed to invest in infrastructure, education, and technology. By maximizing our potential, we can lay a groundwork for a diversified economy in the future. Norway provides a compelling example. Despite being an oil-rich nation, Norway has diversified its economy successfully by investing in oil, revenue in education, innovation, and sustainable industry. Additionally, our own Caribbean country, Trinidad, has diversified its economy by investing oil revenue to develop the country. In conclusion, esteemed debaters, the challenges of diversifying Ghana economy beyond oil are daunting, but not hopeless. It is compulsory upon us to confront these obstacles head-on with determination, innovation, and steadfast commitment to the principle of human rights and sustainable development. Only then we can chart the path towards a brighter future for all Guyanese. Thank you.
On the bell. Thank you very much, Mr. Prasad. And now for the final speaker in this first round. And that is Nigel Dripol from Helpful Hands Youth Group, the opposition. Nigel, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Your time starts now.
Mr. Speaker, since I was a little boy, my mother always tell me, Nigel, don't put all your eggs in one basket. This simple yet profound piece of wisdom has been the guiding principle in my life. And so today, I stand to solidify the argument that diversifying our economy beyond oil is not just about a strategy, but it is a critical necessity for sustainable development in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, allow me to introduce the concept of the Dutch disease to my young but worthy opponents. To put it in a nutshell, the Dutch disease is basically the over-reliance of one sector in the economy, and it leads to the neglect of other sectors, which is crucial for comprehensive economic success. And as such, when a country puts all of its eggs in the oil basket, it risks neglecting other vital resources and opportunities for economic growth. Now, this over-reliance, it can lead to economic instability, particularly when the prices of oil start to fluctuate, as they have done dramatically over the years. Now, let us consider Saudi Arabia, a nation once synonymous with oil wealth. Today, they are working at a supersonic speed to diversify their economy and to eradicate their complete reliance on oil. Now, this is not just a strategic maneuver, but it is a recognition that sustainable development, diversity, the opposition may have argued, fastest growing economy in the world. I want to humbly ask them, at the expense of what are we the fastest growing economy in the world? Have we considered the other resources that has the potential to boost our economy? Audience, what about the countless job and opportunities that can be exploited through our tourism economy, to our tourism industry? In recent concluded budget, We allocated $98 billion to our agriculture sector. Now, this investment is not just a financial decision, but it is a testament of our belief in the potential of our land and our people. Agriculture has always been the backbone of our economy, and it has the potential to provide food security, employment, and sustainable growth. My learned opposition, I'm talking about the Guyana that was once the breadbasket of the Caribbean. Now, as my first speaker would have eloquently mentioned, the prices for oil have drastically dropped over the years. Now, let me ask you, my listening audience, what happens to all the jobs when the oil industry, all the jobs that the oil industry created when the well runs dry? We know that the oil is not renewable. Look at our neighbors in Trinidad. For example, they were once an oil-rich nation, but look at how many of them were lined up the other day to come to Guyana to work. Mr. Speaker, investing in sectors like agriculture and tourism and manufacturing is not just about economic diversification. It is about ensuring that there's a stable and prosperous future in place for our one Guyana. Now imagine a Guyana. My dear opponents, allow me to entice and activate your English as I take you on the imagination. Imagine a Guyana that flourishes in the tourism industry, attracting visitors from all around the world to our pristine rainforests and our majestic rivers. Diversifying our economy is like a garden. And if we plant only one crop, we stand the possibility of losing everything if that crop fails. But if we diversify our crops, even if one fails, we stand the possibility of the others thriving. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigel. And viewers, judges, there you have it. The two groups, JC Chandra Singh Secondary School Orators and Helpful Hands Youth Group. JC Chandra Singh coming all the way from East Police, and young people, all 15 years old, against Helpful Hands Youth Group. Another excellent debate today. Let us ask Yannick, our Public Relations Officer, to tell us about the rules of this competition. Yannick? Thank you very much, Yannick. Our teams have another 1.5 minutes to prepare their rebuttals. Let me remind you of our judges. Chief Judge Melissa Dow Robertson, Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, Deputy Director Sport, Safraz Yakub, has his own business and a former national youth debater, and Judge Stephen Gabriel, like Safraz, another outstanding young debater passing through the ranks of our youth debating competitions and youth parliament. The mood today is diversifying the economy beyond oil is not critical for sustainable development in Guyana. And the two teams are the proposition J.C. Chani Singh Secondary School Orators and Helpful Hands Youth Group. And now for the rebuttals. The rebuttals will start with Abian Saul from Helpful Hands Youth Group. Abian, and both teams are in the chambers, presenting, as they would now say, physically before everyone. And we are joined tonight for this debate by Globespan in New York, who are carrying this debate on their television at the moment. Abian, your time starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I rise as first speaker once again in firm opposition of the moot. Diversifying the economy beyond oil is not critical for sustainable development in Guyana. Esteemed judges, even if the proposition's morally flawed brainwashing had begun to sway you at some point in time, I am quite certain that after hearing my team's presentations, you are now in favor of the opposition. Our presentations reveal the environmental consequences, the consequences of economic dependency on oil, and brought light to the value of the various industries in Guyana. Members of the proposition, this is not the occasion for opinions, this is an occasion for facts. While my team presented factual information against the affirmative, your team's argument is riddled with beliefs and opinions. We do not think, feel, or believe. We know from statistical finding and authoritative proof from my team's presentation why it is a fallacy to believe that economic diversity beyond oil is not critical for sustainable development in Guyana. Firstly, as your first speaker defines sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Yes, while oil may be able to meet the needs of the present, how can we say that solely depending on oil does not place future generations at risk? As noted in my speech, I mentioned the environmental consequences of oil. Secondly, the first speaker also mentioned that Norway is dependent on oil and their economy is developing. However, did your third speaker not say that despite being oil rich, Norway diversified their economy? Additionally, my second speaker also noted that Norway is paying us to maintain our forests so it can benefit them. Tell me why Norway can maintain their forests, or did they neglect it while solely focusing on oil development and only recognize the need for economic diversification after? Thirdly, your second speaker also mentioned that one tree does not make a forest. Yes, I agree. One tree does not make a forest. And in the same manner, one tree, that tree being oil, cannot make our forest. Hence why we need diversification. Please note that it also takes one tree to burn down that forest. So when the oil is gone, when that tree burns, what next for our economy? Additionally, your second speaker also mentioned that not only did Norway diversify their economy, but Trinidad and Tobago, our neighbor, also found the need for diversifying their economy. Does this not support the opposition stance on the moot? Are we not saying that economic diversification is necessary? And lastly, your third speaker highlighted that without oil, we are ill prepared to meet the needs of the population. They cited that oil can help us achieve Sustainable Development Goals 3 and 8, and it is the lifeline to address challenges, and it brings in the revenue to invest in multiple sources of income. Does this also not support the need for economic diversification? In closing, the arguments brought forward by the proposition lack substantial evidence and fail to appropriately address how oil is enough to promote sustainable development in Guyana. Throughout their speeches, they have continuously supported the need for economic diversification. Again, we, the opposition, stress that oil alone cannot meet the present and future needs of Guyana's population, as it fails to consider the finite nature of oil resources. Relying heavily on one single commodity exposes Guyana to economic instability and unpredictability. In contrast, economic diversification spreads risk across various sectors, making the economy more resilient to shocks and downturns. If Guyana's LCDS has identified the need for economic diversification using the revenues obtained from the oil and gas sector, how can we say that it is not critical? I urge you, learned members of the proposition, to go back to the drawing board. Reconsider your arguments, as there are several aspects that must be refined for greater clarity, and desist from misleading our dear members of the audience. We rest our case.
Thank you very much, Abian. That's Abian Saul, Helpful Hands Youth Group, and they are the opposition. And now for the proposition, J.C. Chandy Singh Secondary School orators, and they are led by Kevin Bethune, who will present the rebuttal for them. Kevin, your time starts now.
Honorable Speaker, esteemed judges, and distinguished colleagues, allow me to paint a picture for you, one that captures the essence of our debate today. In the quiet village of Berbice lives a mother named Leela. She toils from dawn till dusk, working the land and selling produce at the market to provide for her 3 children. Despite her relentless efforts, the returns are meager and the future uncertain. Her dreams for the better life for her children seems like distant stars barely visible through the haze of hardship. Viewers online, Leela's story is not unique. It's a testament to the struggles faced by many of our beloved Guyana, a nation brimming with potential, yet often hampered by limited economic opportunities. It is within this context that we must critically examine the proposition before us, that diversifying the economy beyond oil is not as we address the argument presented by our esteemed opponents. Let us remember the Guyanese proverbs. Empty bag can't stand up. Just as Leela's efforts alone cannot lift her family out of poverty, a single sector cannot sustain an entire economy. Our opponents have put forward the notion that diversification is essential for mitigating risks and ensuring stability. However, they overlook the transformative potential of Guyana's newly discovered oil reserves, a golden opportunity to fill our nation's bag with the resource needed for comprehensive development. Erudite judges, imagine Leela's life transformed by the reasonable use of oil of revenue. Picture her children attended well-rounded schools, her home connected to modern infrastructure, and her small business thriving due to improved economic condition. This is not a distant dream, but a tangible possibility. If we harness our oil wealth responsibly and strategically, respective judges, allow me to address the points raised by our opposition systematically, using the sound reasoning and compelling evidence presented by our team. The opposition first speaker argued that diversification is essential to mitigate the risk of oil dependency, such as price volatility and environmental degradation. However, as the first speaker, I rightly pointed out that Guyana's newfound oil wealth presents an unparalleled opportunity for economic growth. The significant revenue from oil can be channeled into critical sectors such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure, laying a robust foundation for the sustainable development. Diversification can follow once the benefits of oil has fully realized. The second speaker of the proposition spoke about the effect of our friend Trinidad and Tobago. However, our second speaker would have secured our stone by educating you that on environmental sustainability. The option second speaker would have mentioned if the oil goes, so does everything. She also highlighted environmental risks and potential instability associated with relying on oil. While these concerns are valid, our second speaker emphasized that strategic measures can mitigate such risks. For example, the creation of sovereign wealth fund ensure that oil revenue are invested sustainable and responsible. Moreover, technological advancements and adherence to best practice in the oil industry can significantly reduce environmental impacts. As I enlighten you on another Guyanese proverbs, one dirty build dam. As we say in Guyana, step by step, we can manage our resources wisely without the immediate need for diversification. The opposition third speaker contended that diversification fosters innovation and long-term economic reliance, yet our third speaker effectively argued that focusing on the oil sector revenue in the short term to medium term, Guyana can establish a strong economic base. This phase approach leverages our current strengths while planning for a diversified and resilient economy. Indeed, don't put your eggs in one basket, but let's use the golden egg we have now to build a solid foundation. In conclusion, dignified judges, as we consider the argument before us, let us not forget Leela and countless others like her. By harnessing our oil resource responsibly, we can secure a prosperous future and lay the groundwork for eventual diversification. Let us seize this unique opportunity to build a resilient and thriving Guyanese economy, ensuring that no mother like Leela ever have to choose between putting food on the table and sending her children to school. I thank you.
Again, wow. These debates are really, really good today. Congratulations to both teams. Our judges are now going to tabulate. I again say that I do not want to be a judge in this competition. I love the basket, putting all your eggs in one basket, but I got floored with this golden egg. It's tight. It's tight. So while we wait on the judges, we've seen a number of new persons joining us for this debate. We've seen the spouse of one debater. We've seen a cousin of another. We've seen a mother of another. I don't want to call the names, but happy to have you all join. We have people like Andrew King, Shazim Mohammed, Ashmani Prasad, Ronella Harris, Golan Farid Sheikh, Trudy Sinclair, Devika Udit Ram, Denise James, Karen Seaford, Vishal Dayan, Lulu, Flavio Chesney, Nikki Scarpio, all tuning in and sharing their comments and congratulating both teams. So those judges who are busy tabulating are Judge Stefan Gabriel, Judge Safraz Yakub, and Chief Judge Melissa Dow Richardson. Judges are near completing, and the two teams we had were Helpful Hands Youth Group, the opposition. The two teams were Helpful Hands Youth Group out of Eccles, East Bank, and West Dem, and JC Chandy Singh Secondary School Orators, all the way from East Berbice. Both teams presenting physically before the judges. The judges are ready. Let's get Judge Yakub to start this round of comments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to both teams. You came prepared today. It's always a pleasure to have you in-house, and commendations must be made to the teachers as well. It's not easy to prepare youngsters to come to the podium and to present with such skill. So good job, teachers. Good job, teams. And in terms of the moot, it was not the easiest of moot to propose. I would have been more happy if I was on the opposition. So, but when you have a moot like this, you have to really examine the words. Critical here would have played a key point, so as to say that it is maybe of importance, but is it of critical importance? And then you delve more into the arguments and seeing how well you can put forward your presentations. Today, unfortunately, one side was all over the place and it was very hard to follow. At times you are even agreeing with the other side, and that's never a good thing. But you live, you learn, and you come back better. But diversification is always important. We've seen this and the negative effects of not diversifying in Venezuela. We've seen what over-subsidizing can do and the overindulgence and dependence on one resource. And we've also seen a good example in Dubai, where at one point, 50% of their GDP was reliant on oil revenues. And as of 2013, December, I think, the GDP is only reliant 1% on oil revenue. So they have 99% of that GDP coming from other sectors, which is really, really an example to follow. But it was good presentations from both ends. I thank both teams and congrats and best wishes going forward. Thank you.
Judge Stefan?
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I share the same sentiments as Mr. Yakub. I think there was some misinterpretation with the moot when one side is supposed to be focusing specifically on oil being sufficient alone and there not being a need to diversify the economy, and the other side focusing on relying heavily on oil will be a detriment to society. It will not work out. The presentations were great. We really enjoyed the presentations. Every single one of you did an exceptional job, and it is only now that you move up and you continue working on what you've done. Really good job. I'm really, really happy. Thank you, guys.
Chief Judge Melissa Dow Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to everyone. It's still a bit of morning. It's really important to start well, and even more important when we want to win, to finish strong. You know, sometimes, and I'll use a sports reference, it's not whether or not you win the race, but that you complete it. And so today, clearly our debaters did their research, understand the SDGs and the complexities of diversity and the implications of oil in our economy, which is such a resource-rich economy. But sometimes this mood called for analysis that was not clearly applied, and in some cases we were building our opponent's point, and this is a danger, right? It happens, and here we have an example of it being illustrated. Notwithstanding, great research, it was a competitive debate. Congrats to both teams for showing up at this point in it, and I want to say I appreciate the colloquial references to, our colloquial heritage. I appreciate that coming out to punctuate your points, and it was tastefully done. So well done to everyone in that regard. Go Guyana. So no further delays. It was unanimous across the judging pool. We agree that Nigel Drapal is today's best debater. Congratulations to you. Well done, young man. The scores, we find one team earning 172 points. The winning team took it with 199. It goes to the opposition. Our Helpful Hands Youth Group out of Eccles. Congratulations to you. Well done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, judges, and congratulations to the two teams. JC Chandy Singh, you did extremely well. Kevin started nervous and scratchy, but you finished your rebuttal really, really good. And continue. All I can say is continue. You guys have a long way to go. Helpful Hands, another excellent job done. Congratulations to you, Nigel. Congratulations. I would have slammed you and said, you giving me a basket to fetch water. That would have been another one. And somebody mentioned one tree could burn down the whole forest. Right. The presenter. I thought another one to nail it, one oil spill would have shut down the whole industry. Right? So, but I am for exploiting. And even last night, I looked at the case of Brunei. And they found oil around 1929. And they had the same issue. It will run out. What will happen? It's still pumping oil. Right? But they had a unique arrangement where the British had an advisor to the Sultan of Brunei, and that advisor used to run everything. And the Sultan was titular. And I think in the 60s, a new Sultan came, he said, here, we're going to run our own affairs. And there's some uniqueness about Brunei in that since the 60s to now, it's operating under a state of emergency. So they're being criticized for lack of democracy. But they're still pumping oil and doing pretty well. Teams, I really enjoyed all four presentations this morning. The two at 9:30 and this one at 11. We have another debate starting at 12:30, and you'll have another debater. Safe travel back, JC Chandy Singh, and you to continue the great work. Thanks to our staff. They've done an excellent job with some of these moots, and these are moots that don't have a clear black and white answer. As they would say, the answer are in the hands of all of us. So thank you very much, team. Good luck to those who are coming afterwards. Thank you.
We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here. And